Hello, everyone. Welcome to Orange and Brew Podcast, where we made our two favorite pastimes, the Denver Broncos and beer. I am JT Matthews, coming to you from my phone today because my computer is giving me all sorts of issues. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, computer issues always happen. Let's be honest. There's a reason why IT gets paid so much and why there's so many people in IT.
It's all mic issues. I don't know what's going on, but we were going to make it happen regardless. With me is John Cronenberg at John K NFL on X, super producer and my co-host. And the doctor is out today. He was at a conference for his work, so John and I will be holding it down for you. John, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing very well. I was able to spend yesterday at Air Force Falcons practice. It was a real good time. Was able, for a Broncos perspective, was able to meet Ted Sundquist. It was a really good time. He was very friendly. Obviously, he was the GM for the Broncos for many years. And it was just good to speak with him, learning about his history with the Air Force Falcons. And to be honest, everyone is so nice up there in Colorado Springs of the team. They come up to you, they introduce themselves, they say, "This is who I am, this is what I'm playing," and it's an amazing experience. Honestly, I loved being there and being able to talk to some of those higher ups, even with the coaches.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm a bit jealous. It sounds like you had a good time though.
Yes, I did. It was a long day though, after, in the heat, it can kind of add up where the next day you just feel a little tired.
For sure. And, it's a little bit of a drive too. So,
it actually isn't too bad from where I'm at because you just get right on. It's like 35 minutes, 40 at max.
Cool. Well, that's good. I just know that traffic can be terrible.
That's the thing. The traffic, for games, we'll see how that happens because I plan on going to some. But let's say hi to the people that are in the room so far. Jolene, it's go time. It sounds like you had a great time the other day when you were on a pod for mainly Broncos. So, yeah, everyone check that out after this pod, though. After this pod. And we got our man Orange crushing here. Football with the beer. We're going to be testing another Texas beer, so hopefully you'll be happy with that. And I know you have a lot of good things going on right now, Crush, so I appreciate you spending the time with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for showing up. We always appreciate it, and we're always happy to talk Broncos, and we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do, but
go ahead.
What about this down here? What is Cam doing? What is he doing? Is he just trying to cause issues? I think he is.
It looks like it. It looks like it.
Yeah, I think he is. All right, we'll just put that down for now and move on. I'll move on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, revoke some Cam privilege here, just for that comment. Sorry, Cam. And we're rooting for the Buckeyes. So, moving on. Let's talk about the Broncos' final 53-man roster. It has happened. The weeding out of prospects has happened. Obviously, we'll talk practice squad as well.
Yeah.
And I think we're just going to go through the offense first.
Yeah,
so we're going to do your time, and then we're going to go through the defense. So if you want all of it, you got to stick through the whole thing. And let's talk. Let's just start quarterback position.
Yeah. Were you surprised at all that the Broncos did not keep an emergency quarterback on the 53?
Yes and no. I haven't felt strongly about the backup quarterback play anyways, and so
yeah,
I'm guessing that it will be for the first 53-man roster. I'm not so surprised. Yes, Russell Wilson mid the roster, so that's cool. It's kind of needed at this point. So
yes,
but not too surprised, and not too surprised that Stidham got the backup QB role. I wasn't super impressed by Stidham throughout preseason, but his last showing was pretty good in the game against the Rams. So I forgave him. I'm okay functioning with him at the backup quarterback spot, even though I don't necessarily feel confident about him stepping in if we need someone. But, there's always guys on the market, veteran guys that'll be out there that we could snag up at some point. So
right.
I'm not convinced that that'll be the final move at that position if an injury happens. But Stidham's a fine fill in for now.
Right, I agree. And when it comes to the running back room, I feel very confident right now, personally. Javonte Williams, we have Jolene saying here, he's gonna kill this year. And do you feel that same way, even with the harsh knee injury? But we've seen him come back already and is looks pretty fresh. What are your thoughts on his ability to maybe, what are your thoughts on it basically this year?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what he's got in the tank after this injury. I think we've all been kind of waiting to see. He had a few little reps in preseason, but we didn't get to see much. But he's looked good at practice. From all accounts, he looks healthy. The knee looks good. I'm still holding my breath a little bit just because it was such a major injury, but I'm hopeful that he will put together a great season. And I'm hoping that they'll ease him into it a little bit more than maybe they normally would for a young guy. And P. Ryan, I feel good about P. Ryan behind him. They're kind of both battering rams, so you kind of get, the same flavor with both.
Yeah.
But McLaughlin as your third running back, I mean, he's definitely a little bit different. He's got a little more speed. His game is a little bit different. So I think the three of them will complement each other nicely.
Yeah, I agree, honestly. I think the big thing for me is, hey, with P. Ryan and Williams, they can get 4 yards pretty much every single down, like I believe they can. I think the Broncos are going to see a lot of success just because, again, we've seen this team going to the heavy, kind of more of a heavy set, and I'm excited about that, honestly. I think that's a good way to get things going. The question, I'm going to kind of steal this from Cam from yesterday. I saw him doing a pod. And do you think any of these running backs will cross the 1,000-yard mark? Because there's a lot of different guys. You can split these carries up.
Yeah, I think Javonte might. I'm not sold on that per se, but I think when I was talking about the running back room early on and Doc was wanting Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott or someone to come in and kind of fill a role just in case Javonte wasn't feeling up to it or wasn't 100% healthy. I was feeling I had mixed feelings about it, right? I wanted to hedge our bets a little bit because of the injury, but I also wanted to see what we have in Javonte this year so we know what the future looks like moving forward. I am hopeful that he can be a workhorse back. But I think you've got the right people behind him to compliment him. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he caught some steam and they just let him roll. But at the same time, I'm hoping it's a more gradual thing. So go either way. But
all right, so put your answers below because Cam is pretty emphatic. It sounds like the answer is no. I mean, that is just straight up a no. And I could kind of see this being one of those scenarios where both guys get very close to that kind of, maybe one gets 900, another guy gets 700, and you kind of just fill in those gaps with a few other guys. Plus Wilson's going to run the ball well, actually. So for me, when it comes to this, I'm not sure if I see a 1,000-yard rusher either. It just depends on how much are the Broncos going to split up those carries to keep Williams fresh, especially early on in the season, I think. Because, it's a long season, 17 games. They plan on making it into the playoffs. So I definitely think that's kind of the goal and maybe would, hurt some of their fantasy kind of aspects.
Sure. Yeah, no, I could see it. I'm not emphatic about it, but I could see a scenario where Javonte catches fire and they just ride him, and that would
be great. I mean, if someone you can ride the hot hand. It's like in NHL. You have a goalie who's hot in the playoffs. Do not switch him out.
Right.
Want to talk real quickly to our buddy here. David talks Buffs. Broncos should claim Zappy. Unfortunately, the Patriots got him back. So the Patriots they do their thing and. They were able to claim him and have him on his practice squad. So that's a little unfortunate because he's someone I would have taken over, maybe not on I would have had on the practice squad at least and started to have him develop and learn things over what we have now.
Over maybe DiNucci or something. Yeah, I could see that. For sure.
Exactly. And
let's move on to
real quick. We have David is also saying no, it sounds like for as well for the 1,000-yard rushing.
Okay. All right. I respect all of your answers.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just put this in my receipt bin just in case.
Just in case. And Cam's coming in here again. Patriots signed Matt Corral, which is an interesting move. I was surprised he was let go from the Panthers.
Yeah.
From my understanding, he had a rough camp. And that was kind of one of the big reasons. They didn't see much out of him in last year. So I understand that they're, trying to move on, but I think this is a good move for the Patriots as well, just to get all these different quarterbacks and see if any of these guys can be the future. If not, maybe, hey, I have to draft someone if you're not feeling comfortable with Mac Jones or something like that.
I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable with Mac Jones personally, so
there you go.
I can't blame him. Gather your assets and see what happens is all I'll say.
Exactly.
Wide receivers, you want to go through them real quick?
Yeah, let's. I want to get to David's here real quick, though. I'm going to need an explanation on why we have 4 tight ends and a fullback and 3 healthy wide receivers. But in all seriousness, I like the offensive line more than previous years. So we'll get to the offensive line in a second. But when it comes to this receiving core, it is hurt. Obviously, you got Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, Brandon Johnson. I assume they're going to call up a few guys from the practice squad, elevate them, do something along those lines. But man, it's slim pickings.
I mean, unless the plan is to use Dulcich as a glorified wide receiver, and right. I could see a scenario where that happens. We've seen that in the league before. When they're playing more of a wide receiver role, and really that's where his strength lies. So it still doesn't really fill out the wide receiver group, and it is an odd group a little bit.
Yeah,
they picked up Dorsett, so that's an option. There as well. And so
we had David Stills as well, Michael Bandy, which doesn't set the world on fire with some of these names, but again, at least it's someone to have there besides Dulcich. Again, it's a high risk with this kind of roster if you don't call someone up, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've got to be adaptable. You've got to be able to plan ahead. If people are not recovering from their injuries, Jerry looks a little iffy moving forward, then we've got to pull some of those guys up. But I do like the additions. I think we've got good pass catchers. And maybe it's not your prototypical roster construction. They really like the tight ends they have, apparently, because they kept 4 of them. And I assume all of them will get a little bit of playing time at some point. They opted to keep Atkins over Alberto because of his versatility.
So personally, I like the move just because it gives you some flexibility with that fullback tight end role. He can do some different things, be a little bit better of a receiver. And again, if Burton has issues, then all of a sudden you just have a guy able to step in. And he was a lineman when he was in high school. So he had to kind of learn the position kind of in college. So he's very much a strong blocking tight end, which is what Sean Payton wants, really. And I think that's the reason why Alberto was let go over Atkins.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need someone who can get their nose in there, can make blocks. I mean, we saw even in the last game, Albert in the pass protection and run blocking was not a star. He was a star catching the ball, however, and I think he got an opportunity because of that to land on a roster, and so I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I'm happy he's a Philadelphia Eagle. The trade worked out in a sense where, I think, what was it, Albert Okwuegbunam, and was it a 6th? I thought it was a 5th. I think it was a 6th. A 7th, and then we get a 6th in return. I think it was first reported as a 5th, but that was a little unfortunate that it's just a 6th. But I'll take that, and I think he will do very well in that offense with the Eagles. So I think it's a win-win, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think he's got some ability as a pass catcher. I hope they're able to utilize him. Obviously, he made that one-handed catch in that last preseason game, so the skills there. He just needs the opportunity and needs to keep working on that other part of his game. But yeah, I mean, as far as the pass catchers on this team, I feel okay about it. I like Brandon Johnson a lot. For a young guy, he's a good change of pace kind of dude. Mims looks like he's going to be what we are hoping he'll be.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity for Jerry and Cortland to kind of set themselves apart as the 1 and 2 and earn that money. So we'll see what happens. But
exactly, especially for Jerry, he wants that big deal, and I almost would love it if he played his way out of Denver in a sense.
fair enough. Fair enough.
So let's switch on over to the line. Where do you want to start with our tackles?
Sure, let's start with the tackles.
All right, we got Garrett Bowles, and then Cam Fleming's going to be doing both sides. What are your thoughts on that?
It feels a little shallow potentially, but I think it's okay for now. I like Cam Fleming. I think he could do both in a pinch. There's some versatility there. I'm hoping McGlinchey will come back healthy and be able to contribute right away. So I like our starters the way they are. I'm kind of surprised they didn't keep someone on the active roster that has that versatility to play inside and out. But overall, I'm not too upset about it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, when it comes to Cam Fleming, I think I was a little worried what I saw in the preseason and those kind of things, but that's how I felt every year when we've had him. He needs that time to kind of ramp up. It took a while for him to get onto the team and get signed as well. So I have a good feeling about Cam Fleming. I think last year he did an admirable job, and honestly, I think he was one of the best linemen for the Broncos last year. So it was a no-brainer to bring him back. On top of that, looking for that guy who can do multiple things. Speaking to Cameron Parker's point here, Denver should cut Quinn Bailey because I want to see John get angry. No, they're not going to get rid of him because, look, he is the guy who can switch from who can play 4 positions for you. He can play your left tackle if Fleming's down. He can play your left guard. Center, no. But when it comes to right guard, again, he can play that for you. Right tackle, he can play that for you if you need him to be. So I see it as he's just such a valuable player who can do all these different things, and he can do it at a high level, I think. A lot of people may not notice him, but you've seen at different times where the team has needed him. He stepped in and made, gotten the game ball because he really made an impact. So Quinn Bailey, for me, is a happy re-signing. I know he was let go in order to bring some guys in from the short-term IR. Very glad to have him back, and I think he's someone that you really want on your team in terms of flexibility for that.
Yeah, I think so. And let's not forget that I don't know how to say his name. Alex Palczewski. How do you say it? Is that how you say it?
Alex, I have trouble with this one too. I admit it. That's where we need Doc.
At least he would attack it with some vigor and passion, but. Regardless, he's going to be on this roster at least, or on the practice squad at the very least. I would guess active roster point given how he's played. So there is some more offensive tackle options there in the pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's short-term IR, and then they can figure some things out. Anything surprise you though on the offensive line?
I'm looking at it. Not too much really.
Yeah.
Are you surprised by anything? Maybe Fuller, maybe giving Fuller cutting Fuller just because of the versatility, but outside of that, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of these guys are getting their points with, like Cam again. I think the most not talked about winner of the 53 is Alex Forsythe. With them cutting Kyle Fuller, I think they had a lot of faith in Fuller to be able to play center and move out to guard if need be, but look, Alex Forsythe, I think a lot of us liked him in terms of the draft, and he just kind of kept falling nicely for the Broncos to get him. And look, I think he's a guy where you can really look towards the future, see what he can bring. Because again, Cushenberry's on his final year of his deal, so let's see what he can do. And is this someone you want to be your replacement kind of thing?
Totally. I like Forsythe. I like.
Was it a surprise to you? I guess that's my question now, as Crush is saying here.
I wasn't particularly surprised. We had kind of heard that the coaching staff had liked Forsythe. I mean, I think I could have seen it go either way. I don't think they were married to him necessarily, but I think that's the move I would have made. And just young talent. I liked Forsythe in the draft.
Yeah, it feels like his body just fits Peyton's kind of mold as well. his body type.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, I don't know that he would be the next option to play center. I mean, honestly, Quinn Miners could play center if you needed him to in a pinch. I'm not sure they wouldn't talk about moving around that the starters just to push one of these guys into a guard or tackle position.
Yeah.
So
I have to. The one thing again, I just have to always keep saying, I'm so confused how Luke Wattenberg stays on this roster. It is just one of those things where I have not seen good play from him. I don't see him getting to the second level when I watch him. I see him, get tripped up often. I just do not see it. So I am very surprised he made this roster, but there's something obviously I'm missing that George Payton and Sean Payton like about him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he brings something. So
I just don't know what. Someone tell me in the comments, what does he bring? What am I missing? I don't know.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to keep an eye on it. If he gets a chance to play, maybe we'll see. Maybe he'll redeem himself in your eyes.
That was a good pun. I like this. I'm sorry. That's a good one.
Very punny. Well, anything else on this offensive group? Or are you ready to kick it to beer time?
I am ready to let's have some beer. Let's have a good time. I think we're going to enjoy this beer. I have a good feeling. So let's do it. Frank the Tank, you going to get your beer right now?
I had it in the pantry. It had been pulled out of the fridge, so I went and threw it in the freezer before we started. So I wanted to cool it down a little bit. So I'm just grabbing it right now and heading back over.
This is another one from Texas that we got here. Is it McCowan?
Yeah, I don't know.
That U just is weird at the end. MCCO, I think that's an N. AU. Crush, help us out here. You're the Texas guy. Let us know. Macano? Yeah, maybe. But it is, we got some detail here. Twisted X Brewing, based out of Dripping Springs, Texas, outside of Austin, Texas. It's a hazy IPA hopped with citrus and Galaxy will make you feel all right ×3. I don't know what that exactly means. Huh.
That's a weird name for a town. Dripping Springs, Texas.
It really did I say it wrong? It's dripping. Not drinking. But still dripping. No,
you said dripping. I think that's a weird name for a town, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going on there, but I really do like the design of this. I think it really kind of sells the beer. And again, this is going to be kind of a citrus kind of taste. So we'll see if this kind of hits the spot. I think this was the one that okay, here we go.
Oh, okay.
I need a phonetic one, man. I need it phonetically, but that will be for the people in the chat to understand what we're trying to say.
McConaughey's, I think.
McConaughey's. Oh, like it's one word kind of thing. McConaughey's.
Oh, like McConaughey, like Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, gotcha. Oh, yeah, that's good. All right. All right. And he's saying it's a beautiful place. So some great Texas Hills. You ready to crack these bad boys open?
Yeah. I just wanted to say it's 6.5 ABV, so a good little kick here.
Yeah, we will definitely.
Are you ready?
3, 2, 1.
Oh, snappy. Smells delicious.
That really does smell really good. I wonder. It does smell hoppy, but it's not really in my face like some of the other beers that we've had from Texas, where it's just like the Tarnation beer. Where I was just like, just that was a one sip one. It felt like a vodka shot. Ready?
How do you? I'm wondering, since we've started doing this, we've made you drink a little bit more than you used to. Are your beer tastes changing at all?
You know what? I think I've been able to start to appreciate hops a little bit more and not be so. It felt like to me at first everything tasted very strong alcoholic wise, and now I'm starting to get the differences and not if it's a 4% ABV, I can tell the difference between that and a 6.5 now. Before, everything was just kind of muddled together, so I have my taste kind of somewhat getting better, and we're working there.
Yeah, we're getting it. Well, cheers.
Cheers. I love this one. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Not just because it's an IPA. I love an IPA, so I'm not going to be able to
why. This one is very easy to drink.
Yeah, it is. It's not too in your face. The hops isn't super bitter. It's not like sometimes you get that lingering like hoppy bitterness on the tongue. I get a little bit of that kind of after the fact.
Yeah, but
pretty smooth.
Yeah, I really think this was pretty smooth, and honestly, I think that I'm trying to remember. I think this would be third out of all the ones I've done so far, actually, if I remember right. I had two that
since the beginning.
Yeah, honestly, I really do like this. For me, this is just really easy to drink. Again, the citrus doesn't pop too much for me, but at the same time, it's just so smooth to drink down for me that I love it.
Yeah, no, I like pretty much anything with citra hops. I don't know exactly what
that entail and all that.
The flavor profile is. I think it's a little bit more grapefruity, but I'm not 100% sure. But any Citra IPA that I've had, I've tended to like. So the fact that this is Citra, works for me for sure.
This is a Baron Browning beer when he's healthy because it's so smooth. You can just get around the edge. It's perfect. This is Baron.
I forgot that we used to do player comps with our beer. That was a good one.
Baron Browning right now.
Yeah, smooth. I like that. I'm giving it a big dub.
Big dub. I agree. This one was a huge dub. I really appreciate you showing this one to us, Crush, and glad we could drink it. Hopefully, let us know what your thoughts also are on this, because obviously you've had it. What is this one of your favorites, kind of thing? So let us know. But until then, ready to head back and start doing some more Broncos?
Yeah, let's talk about that defense.
Let's talk about it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All right, where do you want to start on this defense?
All right, let me just pull it up real quick and get it nice and set for everyone.
Sure,
there we go. And here we go. Oh, let's just first get some puns in here. We got Jolene. This is a good one. This is a real good one. Beering Browning. I love that. That's a good one. And for Crush, it's been his favorite IPA. So obviously this one works for some of us really well.
Comes highly recommended, clearly.
Yes. So let's get into the defense. First of all, where do you want to start? Where do you feel what calls to you?
Let's start on the interior defensive line.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I think there's some conversation to have there. So why don't you read them off, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, for the interior defensive line, we got at end. We have Zach Allen, the big free agent from Arizona, who's been pretty impressive in camp. Just waiting to see him kind of in a game. Elijah Garcia had, maybe not the best camp, but he made sure his stamp of was known when he was in the games.
For sure.
Then you have DJ Jones and Mike Purcell, who recently got back on the roster. I think we all know that John was the first to report it, and he was 100% correct. He knows what's going on with Purcell.
Totally.
And the Broncos in general.
Yeah.
Next for the defensive end, we have Jonathan Harris to be perceived as the starter over Matt Henningsen. So that's interesting to me. So that's kind of just the basics outline of those interior defensive linemen, but what are your thoughts on possibly bringing some guys, in for certain times, in from, the practice squad as well? Because there's some good names on that practice squad.
Yeah. I think you've got a good rotation of guys, and I think ultimately they kept the best guys on the active roster. Obviously we knew DJ Jones, Zach Allen were going to be starters. Had a suspicion that Jonathan Harris was going to be the other starter on that line. Henningsen looked good throughout camp. I talked about him as being a potential bubble guy. I was totally off with that. So sorry, Jolene, you were right. And I like Purcell. I do. I know a lot of people kind of go back and forth on Purcell, but in the run game especially, I like what he brings, some stoutness, some hard-nosed mentality, and I think
It's
he does.
so strange to me on Purcell.
Yeah.
People were just like, they were in love with him, and then all of a sudden he got hurt, and they kind of fell out of it. And then it was like, some people, again, were still on his train, but then it just fell off. It was very strange to me to see that happen because he was so beloved until that injury that one year. I'm trying to remember which year, can't.
Yeah, and I think part of it is just like availability and who's there, and I think part of it this year has been that we had some good guys in camp that made that really difficult. You know, I think ultimately Purcell's probably the guy I'd rather have in there, though I like betting on young talent a lot of times. But I like
for your nose tackle. I mean, that you have some good options there. The practice squad is set up very nicely for guys to be called up for when needed. Again, PJ Mustapher is an option for your nose tackle if something happens there. You have some guys on the outside who can hold the edge well. So there's just a lot of different guys that I think they're very excited about that they can, again, easily call up and rotate them in, and that's why they kind of stayed with 6 because you have the guys to call up perfectly. Yeah,
you've got opportunity to mix that up as much as you need to if injuries happen. You've got some depth there, which was funny because it was one of those positions that we were really concerned about coming into camp. You know, we felt pretty shallow there, and by the end of camp, we felt, at least I'm feeling pretty good about that rotation of guys. We may not have, an elite guy, but we have a lot of good guys.
Yes, and it's more they're going to be able to set up your interior, linebackers and your edges to be able to be successful, and that's what I expect from this interior defensive line is they're going to make other players be more successful, and that's all you can ask for from them.
Yeah,
eat those blocks and let them run loose, the other guys.
For sure. So ultimately, I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out. If they had kept one more guy, I would have understood. But I think with the depth that we have, including the practice squad, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Let's move to those interior linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, this one was pretty set. It was Josie Jewell, kind of the starter. Alex Singleton obviously was going to be the starter as well with his contract. We saw Drew Sanders a lot in preseason and also in camp, and man, was he was impressive at times. And especially in camp, he stood out. Really, he really did with his size being 6'5". Am I right?
Yeah, 100%.
But again, so he really stood out to me. Probably just needs to refine a few different things. But if someone gets injured, knock on wood, I think you have someone good there able to kind of fill in for that role. Justin Strnad, again, it seems like a special teams move, which I'm perfectly comfortable with. Do you agree that this is kind of a good set of players for your interior?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Strnad fan, but yeah. I understand the value in the special teams game. I would have been okay with if they had gone a different direction, if they had kept the Seth Vincent or Christopher Allen.
Yeah.
But I don't think those guys particularly stood out in the preseason or in camp. So, go with your known commodity, a guy that is going to produce in special teams. I'm totally fine with that. I don't know what his long-term outlook is on this team, but for now, he's your guy, and I feel okay about it. I don't think the upside is all there, but I understand what he's there for. So overall, not any real strong feelings about that.
Yeah, and Cam makes a good point here. The loss of Griffith made it pretty easy to predict it. That was a hard loss for me personally. I like what he brings to the game, and
oh yeah, I love Griffith. When they made that move, I was excited. He was a special teams contributor, right. So there was a good chance for him to stay on, and then he played great once he got here, and so I just thought he added a lot of depth. Obviously, the injury was a huge blow, but we are where we are, and I'm hoping that he will bounce back and recover and have an opportunity. But pretty predictable for the most part, so I don't think anyone's too surprised with that.
Yeah, I agree. And let's move on to the edges and outside linebackers. This one was surprising to me, just because Thomas and Coombe, I did not expect him to make. I expected him to make the practice squad from what I heard. I did not expect him to make the 53. Honestly, I understand we were kind of low when it comes to edges, and he knows what was going on. But for me, I was just a little surprised.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it came down to Aaron Patrick and Nkunku, and they liked what they saw from Nkunku more than what they liked from Patrick, and I'm a little surprised. I like Aaron Patrick's game.
Was this a move for the edges, or was this a move? This wasn't a move for special teams. They were doing this for the edge group because they felt they needed it.
I think so, and Nkunku showed well in preseason. He showed well in camp too. I saw him, get the edge and duck underneath some tackles and get pressure on the quarterback. Like, he has talent, it's there. And so, obviously the coaching staff liked what he did. I think there's Aaron Patrick coming off an injury. I don't know that there's a ton of versatility there. I mean, obviously he's built like a freak.
He is.
but obviously they went with what they felt like was the upside with Nkunku, and I'm not mad at it. I was maybe a little surprised, but ultimately.
And we still have Baron Browning coming back. Eventually, hopefully things are going well. And when it comes to the practice squad, the Broncos only have one other edge, so they must feel very confident in Nkunku.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think they do, and I think, like you said, with Browning on his way back at some point, then obviously he'll push.
They're going to have to make a hard decision somewhere.
He'll push Cooper back on the as a starter, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
but Cooper looked great. He's my.
I know he's Ohio State, but I have
maybe
to admit,
my biggest surprise.
He is someone that just again didn't he have some heart issues? I'm trying to remember, and that let him fall and into the laps of the Broncos. Some of these heart issues, you see with example like Trey Smith, I believe from the Kansas City Chiefs. All of a sudden they fall into their laps. These are guys that were projected to be first, second round guys. And all of a sudden you do a medical at the combine and they drop so far. It's just really impressive in some way that they're able to overcome those medical issues and show what they can do.
Yeah. I mean, Cooper's been my guy. I mean, I've always liked Cooper. When he came in, obviously he was a lower round draft pick. I'm not sure, 6 maybe. I don't remember exactly, but I had hoped that he could stand in there and make this roster. And the fact that he showed out this camp, looked really good and dominant early on in preseason games when he got snaps. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised to see him in that rotation. I think he's going to be our third guy when all is said and done, when Barron's back. And, that rotation is looking a little bit stronger. Benito looked pretty good in camp. 7th round. Thanks, Jolene. I figured you'd know.
Jolene's on top of it.
Yeah, and Frank Clark was a little miffed with his not.
What's going on, Gage? Oh, that picture looks nice of you. Sorry, it was a new picture. That's a good picture.
But ultimately, I think we got the guys in there that have the talent to get pressure on that quarterback, and that's something we worried about also coming into camp. Mm-hmm. Was there going to be enough depth, enough growth from some of those younger guys? And I think we've seen some growth from those guys, and puts me a little bit more at ease. I'm not sure that I feel super confident with the group in general. If they're healthy, maybe. But also we've talked about Drew Sanders potentially going to rush the quarterback every once in a while, potentially as well. So I think you've got versatility. I think you've got a good stable of guys that can do that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if Drew Sanders gets some, again, A gap blitzing. That would be really exciting for me. I think he could really change kind of the interior pass rush and really let those edges just crash down onto the quarterback, especially if it's a 3rd and long. So love that. Why don't we go over to the cornerbacks? I think this is a room we feel pretty comfortable with the starters. When it comes to Surtain, one of the best in the game, if not the best. I think most of us will say the best. And then you have Damari Mathis, who's been solid all camp and doing the same thing he did his rookie season. And Essang Bassey, he just keeps improving every year, and he's just been in the right spot, the right time, which usually takes discipline, doing what your job, and that's what it entails when you get those picks like that. So I'm very excited about those three being able to work together while we have K'Wan Williams on the short-term IR. They're going to have to make a decision a little bit later then, but they also brought in, what were your thoughts on Tremont Smith being able to stay on this roster? Was it just a special teams move, or is he going to see time as a corner?
It's hard to say. I think it would be I would think it was primarily a special teams move. However, I don't love the depth of this position.
No.
And so I think we might see him out there at some point if things aren't working out. I'm optimistic about Mathis as a starter at this point. I think he's shown that he at least gets that opportunity, though still relatively unproven. Obviously, Pat Surtain. I felt better with K'Wan Williams as the starter than I do with Bassie. Nothing against Bassie, I think.
Right. It's just one of those things where it's he's a better player, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that Bassie has some limitations. I think he played well in preseason, don't get me wrong, but I do think he was also a little opportunistic, which I think it was great for him. But I don't know that I trust it long term. And so I am still a little iffy about the depth of this group. I would have liked to see them maybe make a move on the waivers and try and grab someone that they felt good about, or that could be added to the mix. Obviously, they're not as concerned about it as I am, so we'll see how that all plays out. But
yeah, I mean, you got Riley Moss injured, like you said, and then what everyone's saying kind of in the chat, they're behind McMillan, so watch out for McMillan. He's a man on a mission this year, and again, everything I saw from him, I agree. And again, Jolene Saint, McMillan to the moon. So we have everybody kind of in that side, and a lot of people again are saying Monroe is over Smith, and I agree. I think there's no, Smith is there for special teams. They paid him a lot of money. That's where it kind of is, and I expect once some corners get back, he could see his self out.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see Riley Moss as well, and just kind of get a beat on his athleticism and what he's able to do in coverage. And so I think that'll be something I'm looking forward to as the season progresses, just some opportunity to get him in there and mix it up a little bit and really solidify that depth of that group. I'm hoping that he can hold up to the task.
Definitely. And kind of moving on over to the safeties, unless anyone has anything else to say about the corners in the chat. This was a surprise to me about the number of safeties that were kept, but I understand, afterwards we had PJ Locke, he's on the short-term IR, and they made those moves kind of properly. So it feels a little bit better now seeing it as it is before that. Yeah,
I'm fine with the room as it is. I'm fine with the room as it is. Obviously, we knew Justin Simmons and Caden Stearns were your likely starters. I like that they have Kareem Jackson as both backups.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I don't think JL Skinner showed enough to feel confident in a backup role immediately. Yeah. Obviously, if you need to go that deep, you'll have to. But and I'm a JL Skinner fan, so I think he needs to show more. I think he over pursued sometimes. He got caught down in the box a little bit.
You're right. He did have some over pursuit. That is a good point.
And he doesn't always wrap on tackles, and it didn't hurt him.
Yeah, it didn't hurt him, but I found that as well to be an issue. You're bringing up a lot of good points. He lowered his shoulder, and sometimes I'm just telling him, I feel like to scream at the TV, just wrap up and wait for some guys to come around to gang tackle. And that seems to be a way of the past.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been a physical type of player. He's known for lowering the boom and putting the hurt on guys. And so I think he's accustomed to a certain way of playing.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get some wake-up calls in this league. I think he's going to have to learn that you can't just initiate contact and win every encounter that you come into. And I think we'll see some growth in that. I think he'll have some opportunity at some point to get the reps. But the room in general, I'm not I'm not mad about anything. Delarian Turner-Yell, I'm still, obviously he's another guy.
I'm assuming he did enough for special teams to kind of earn it.
Yeah. And I don't have anything against him. I think he's a talented guy. I just haven't seen enough to really have a strong feel about whether he should have made the 53 or not.
I agree. I thought he would be someone possibly on the outskirts looking in. But pretty much I feel very strong about this defense, except, Traymon Smith, when some guys get healthy, see ya, and a few other guys I expect to, but very excited about this roster as it stands right now. And I think it's going to be very good in getting ready for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, let's run through the practice squad. We talked about a lot of them, but let's talk about some of them.
Let me just get Jolene's. I wanted to get real up.
Oh, yeah, totally.
With Simmons and Locke getting hurt early in camp, I imagine that's one reason they're keeping so many safeties. Yeah, I mean, and I also think Locke is one of their better coverage guys. So if there's some issues with corner, all of a sudden you put PJ Locke in some different positions, and maybe he can hold down the fort. I do believe in his coverage very strongly. And kind of to your point with Crush real quick, a little surprised we kept 6 safeties with PJ coming back in 4 weeks. Could we see Skinner on sub packages? And I think you said it perfectly. I think we can see him a lot of times moving around, being that rover kind of player that just, can be a safety, can all of a sudden be in the box, can really just move around and do a lot of mayhem. So I think that's where we start to see Skinner develop and how he's going to be used. I'm just not sure if we're going to see it this year, if he's going to be prepared, like you were saying.
Oh, I love that Kareem Jackson's going to be ahead of him. I think that they are similar enough in their playing styles. They both like to get in there and be physical. I think
that's a good mentor role. You're right.
Yeah, I think he can learn a lot from Kareem in that. And I, even when I was, looking at draft stuff and looking at JL Skinner, I kind of had shades of young Kareem Jackson and a little bit of his game, obviously not completely, but and JL Skinner is a bit of a freak of an athlete. But I think that's a good spot for him to land, and I'm interested to see if he develops and if Kareem's kind of that, like you said, that mentor role, maybe not directly, but just kind of in watching his game.
Yeah, I think Kareem Jackson in general is a mentor to anyone who's wants the advice. That's what I feel like.
Yeah. Let's talk practice squad real quick. We'll run through it real quick. We'll talk about any surprises, and then we will cut after that. So going through it real quick, we've got we can do special teams. Sorry, I was skipping special teams. But we traded for Will Lutz. Do you feel strongly about that?
To me, it didn't feel like a huge move, but I'm comfortable with a 7th round pick being traded. Yeah, if that's what they feel comfortable with, I trust them. I trust what's being done there. So I'm comfortable with it. Riley Dixon, again, comfortable with him. Long snapper, just hope we never hear his name during the season, and we're good there then. If we hear his name, we're kind of something bad happened.
Yeah. Sorry, I know kickers are people too, Cam. I understand. I apologize, Will. I'm okay with Mar. I felt almost maybe a little bit better than I do with Lutz, but I understand the relationship between Sean Payton and Will Lutz and the history there. So I don't feel that strongly about it.
Again, I personally probably would have liked to keep the 7th and seen who was available through free agency, but sometimes you just got to make the move that you feel is right, and it's going to make you feel comfortable going in for those kicks, and you need to feel confident, honestly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, but I think maybe when you hit on like 4 undrafted guys, you don't feel so strongly about having a 7th round draft pick. I don't know.
Right. That's very true. That's a good point. I mean, you trust your departments and able to find those diamonds in the rough. For punt return and kick return, we got Marvin Mims. So that's a little concerning in terms of, hey, if he gets hit the wrong way, he's knocked out. I'm not saying knocked out, maybe gets the wind knocked out of him, something along those lines. All of a sudden, you're down to a few guys, and you're going to be some 12 packages or some heavy sets then, really, for sure, no doubt.
Yeah, you'll be running lots of tight ends at that point, but hopefully he stays healthy. Obviously he's dynamic, so I understand wanting to plug him in there. I would feel maybe a little better with McLaughlin in there just from a health standpoint, but I think both are viable options.
Yeah, I would have felt a little bit more comfortable with McLaughlin as well, just because I thought he was impressive. I understand he had a muff a few times, but hey, he made some explosive plays back there, especially using his blockers very well, being able to set them up. So yeah, I would become more comfortable with that. But hey, if it's Mims, let him be explosive. Let him, make some big plays and get this team going.
Yep, with you. Okay, now practice squad.
Let's do it. I just kind of have it listed here in the private chat.
Yeah,
so
can we read them off?
Yeah, why don't you read them off?
Yeah, so quarterback Ben DiNucci was signed. Running back Tyler Beatty. I can never say it right, and I never remember which is which.
Right.
Running back Dwayne Washington. Wide receiver Philip Dorsett. Wide receiver David Sills. Wide receiver Lil Jordan Humphrey. Wide receiver Michael Bandy. Tight end Lucas Kroll. Offensive tackle Demontre Jacobs. Offensive line Will Sherman. Defensive lineman Tyler Lancaster. Defensive lineman PJ Mustafar. Defensive lineman Jordan Jackson. Offensive linebacker Marcus Haynes. Cornerback Art Green. DB Devin Key. And defensive line Haggai.
The guy from Nigeria who I sadly can't pronounce.
I'm sorry, I murdered that, and I apologize, and I will.
But he doesn't
try and do better.
What's nice about that? Yeah, I feel bad about that. It just, again, haven't heard his name enough, but he did make some plays in the preseason, and again, he doesn't count against the practice squad roster, I believe. Actually, the number. That's interesting, just because that's a nice thing. I really like these guys. When it comes down to corners and their DBs, I really like Devin Key. Actually, I know that it was a crowded safety room, but I felt like even though he wasn't exactly making the plays, he was always around when the plays were happening after the tackle. So I feel like with some development, I think he's from Western Kentucky. Possibly he can set himself up to be in better positions to make those tackles with a year of under some practice squad. Art Green was brought in for a reason. Honestly, at the higher price. You guys know I like Jordan Jackson, and of course I like Will Sherman kind of being a buff. So being able to have a buff and the Air Force guy on the practice squad is important to me. I like to, at least. And for me, otherwise, it's good to have these receivers because I expect a few to be called up this week. For sure. Yeah. And you were talking about Nabusi. I'm going to say it badly. I apologize. Yeah, he's part of the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. So we got to add him on without him. Here we go. Thank you. I know Jolene knows this stuff, knows that better. Nadabusi. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you. Yes, appreciate that. We'll continue to try and figure it out. It's not a strong suit for me, as you guys know. If you've watched the show, you know that we turn to Doc for pronunciation. Yeah. Overall, probably some of my favorite individuals that made the practice squad. I like Jordan Jackson a lot. He was someone that I thought might push for a starting spot, but ultimately, probably didn't do quite enough. And I'm glad that he ended up on the practice squad. Same with Lancaster. I wasn't exactly sure where he stood. They had him even starting in one of the preseason games. Right. And so I wasn't sure if they liked him more than I thought they did. I didn't feel like he was pushing for a rotation spot necessarily, but I thought he played well. Yeah. And maybe I don't know. I like Dwayne Washington. I like when he got in there. I like his style. I felt like he was physical. I felt like he was patient. He didn't have any huge breakout plays that I can recall off the top of my head, but I thought he had potential and talent, and so I was excited that they brought him back. I really, even towards the end of that last preseason game against the Rams, I thought he had some solid runs. Again, nothing, amazing, but something that I thought you could hang your hat on and potentially make your way as a depth guy in this league. And I do like that they brought over Sills. Sills is interesting to me. He
is a guy who can get separation. He's a guy that is a really nice route runner. I think he adds just another dimension to this group. And we moved on from some guys. We moved on from some guys that have been on this team for a little bit.
Yeah.
Kendall Hinton specifically. And so I think you're giving yourself an opportunity to fill in that spot with someone maybe with a little more upside, or at least potentially a little more polish.
Yeah, and let's get to a few questions here as we're starting to run out of time here. A little surprised that Montrell Washington wasn't signed to the practice squad. I get he didn't contribute much as a wide receiver last year, but he could have developed him more on the practice squad. And I also honestly think that he performed better this camp in terms of in game, but I kind of, I still understand why they made the move. They have Mims, they have McLaughlin, they feel comfortable with that. And I think it's sometimes okay to drop, to drop a player quickly. However, it does hurt when he goes to Kansas City. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised, like I said, Jolene, but I'm hurt that Andy Reid would know to do that, like he always does, of course.
Yeah. He got snatched up, and we'll see if he ends up amounting to anything. I was excited about him when he got drafted. I thought he had upside. I never saw it, so I never saw that.
I didn't see his film, honestly. I wasn't really watching into him much, so yeah.
I just don't know that there was enough there to warrant, trying to develop him at this point. And I'm, obviously I wanted him to be successful, but I'm not too heartbroken by them not retaining him. Marcos Callaway got picked up by the Raiders practice squad, so there's another interdivisional position.
And besides that, one thing I was very happy with was Isaiah Prince actually made the active roster for the Falcons, and I think he had a really good camp from what I saw. He was kind of in for Fleming at times while he was still ramping up. So very happy for him, because I thought he played very admirably, and I think he'll fit very well on that team as kind of the depth piece for them.
And Brett Maher's the active kicker for the Rams now. So
so a few guys did go on to make some practice squads and were picked up.
Yep, for sure. Overall, feeling good, bad, indifferent about the final roster. You think they made the right choices overall?
Yeah, I think they made the overall. I'm happy with the decision. Some of them maybe I would have done differently. But, for me, I think this was overall the best roster that I could have seen coming from this team, from George Payton and Sean Payne. Because, again, they have things that they want differently that I'm not, privy to.
Yeah.
And a lot of people wanted this, though, real quick. Did you?
Sure. I would have been excited about that.
He cleared waivers, though, and they got him, and it's one of those things where I was surprised they moved him to the Colts. Moved him, I believe, from corner to receiver, which I didn't get.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they were doing, but overall, I feel good about the team. I feel good. I think there's still some work to be done in some areas. I do want to see some of those receivers kind of get in the mix. At some point, obviously, there's the short-term IR that we're kind of, you're constructing your roster a certain way so that you can hold spots for individuals.
Yeah,
makes complete sense to me. It always looks a little iffy at times when the season starts, but once you get moving, if people get healthy, other injuries happen. You have that versatility to kind of cycle through.
Yeah.
But nothing I'm too angry about. I think maybe if Russ gets hurt, we'll look at backup quarterback, maybe a veteran on the market or something. I think I still wonder about the cornerback depth. I'm hoping that Riley Moss can come in and be impactful when he's healthy.
Yeah.
Remains to be seen. But overall, I feel good about our starters. I feel better about our depth than I did last year.
I feel better than I did kind of like before last week.
I think that's it. Anyone? Thank you, everyone, for listening. Any final comments or
Oh, losing you there a little bit, JT.
Before we go, what do you think's the strongest? Oh, sorry, I'm getting either you're slow or I'm slow.
One of us is kind of messing out here, so it seems like it's time to say goodbye. How about we do that?
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. JT, why don't you sign us out of here?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you as always. Reach out on social medias if you want to chat, talk Broncos, or if you want to talk beer. Either way, we're happy, and we appreciate you joining us as always. But until then, be kind to one another, be safe out there, and go Broncos.
Beat the Raiders.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.